It started with darkness. No lights. No music. No commentary. Just the unmistakable silence of a WWE arena on the verge of something monumental. And then, the jolt. The lights returned. Roman Reigns stood at the center of the ring, not in his tribal chief regalia, but clad in black tactical gear. Beside him stood Cody Rhodes. And CM Punk. The crowd didn't cheer. They roared. In that moment, the WWE Universe didn't just witness a return, they witnessed a resurrection. The Shield, once considered long gone, was back. But it wasn't Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. It was Reigns, Rhodes, and Punk, three icons with enough bad blood between them to drown a faction. And yet, here they were, united. Then came the second shock. Bronson Reed's music hit. The expected fourth man. The presumed enforcer. He marched down the ramp, eyes locked on the trio in the ring. Tension built with every step. Was he joining them? Reinforcing the reborn Shield? No. He walked straight past them, into the arms of Seth Rollins. And just like that, betrayal struck. Reed lifted Punk and drove him through the announce table. Braun Breaker appeared out of nowhere with a spear that split Rhodes in two. Reigns tried to fight, but it was too late. Heyman's empire had arrived. And the war had begun. What unfolded on Monday Night Raw wasn't a segment. It was a seismic shift. The moment Roman Reigns stepped away from his tribal chief persona, the character that had defined an era, and re-entered the battlefield as the soldier of justice he once was, it symbolized something bigger than just another stable reunion. This was a man stepping down from his throne, to fight a war he knew he couldn't win alone. Cody Rhodes? Once his fiercest enemy at WrestleMania. A man obsessed with finishing his family's story, a story Reigns tried to snuff out. CM Punk? The prodigal son of pro wrestling. The outsider who returned not to play along, but to tear the system down one promo at a time. A man with unfinished business, and nothing to lose. These weren't allies by default. They were allies by necessity. And across the battlefield stood the most cunning manipulator in wrestling history, Paul Heyman. His newest creation? A terrifying hybrid of youth, strength, and strategic chaos, Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and now Bronson Reed. Three men. Each dangerous on their own. Unstoppable together. WWE has always thrived on chaos. But what just erupted is something different. This is a storyline that doesn't just pit good versus evil, it pits legacy against evolution. Brotherhood against betrayal. History against the future. Roman Reigns spent years building an empire on fear and control. He crushed everyone in his path. He ran the bloodline like a dynasty, until it fell apart from the inside out. Solo broke off. The Usos rebelled. The tribal chief had no one left to rule. So he shed the crown and picked up the vest. But this time, he's not leading soldiers. He's marching beside rivals, men he once tried to bury. This isn't about titles. It's about survival. Cody Rhodes has already been robbed of his moment once. If he doesn't stop Rollins now, it may never come again. CM Punk has already burned his bridges with every authority figure in WWE. Now he's back in black, not to obey, but to destroy. And Reigns? He wants his throne back. But to reclaim it, he must first help burn the empire he once helped build. The stakes aren't just high. They're personal. The internet erupted within seconds. Hashtags trended globally, hashtag New Shield, hashtag Bronson betrayal, hashtag Heyman's empire, hashtag SummerSlam. War fans aren't just watching this storyline, they're living it. The forums are on fire. Theorists are analyzing every facial twitch. Creators are uploading fan edits of Shield 2.0. And memes? Endless. Cinema, one tweet read, overlaid on a slow-motion shot of Reigns, Rhodes, and Punk raising their fists as the arena bathed in crimson light. But behind the hype is a real question: can these three survive together? They have history, wounds, egos. They've been opponents more than allies. The original Shield had chemistry built over years. This version? It's raw, unstable, a powder keg waiting for a spark. And Reed's betrayal was just that. Every so often, wrestling hits a cultural flashpoint. The rise of Austin 316. The invasion angle. The birth of the original Shield. The collapse of the bloodline. Now this. This is more than a faction war. It's a power shift. A challenge to everything WWE has built over the past 5 years. It throws morality into question. It shatters alliances. It makes SummerSlam not just a PPV, but a possible endpoint. Or a beginning. This isn't just Reigns returning to form. It's Cody confronting the man who stole his legacy. It's Punk walking back into the fire after a decade of wars with the system. It's Rollins finally breaking out of Roman's shadow, with Heyman pulling the strings. And it's Reed, the quiet force who proved he might be the most dangerous man in the room, simply because no one saw him coming. So what's next? That's the question gripping millions of fans right now. Can Rhodes and Reigns coexist long enough to keep Punk in check? Can they even trust each other? What is Paul Heyman really planning? Is this all still part of a larger bloodline power play? Could we see legends return? Could someone else betray the Shield again? All we know for sure is this: the lights went out. The Shield returned. But this time, the enemy was ready. And as the crowd looked on, stunned and screaming, WWE didn't just rewrite a storyline. It flipped the entire company upside down. Roman Reigns didn't just lose the undisputed Universal Championship. He lost everything he built around it. The power, the mystique, the family, the fear. For over 3 years, Roman ruled WWE with an iron will. His bloodline wasn't just a faction, it was the heartbeat of the company. From SmackDown to WrestleMania, he stood unchallenged, his every word treated like gospel, his every move calculated domination. He called himself the head of the table, and for a while, everyone else ate scraps. But nothing that dominant lasts forever. Not when it's built on fear, not loyalty. It started small. Little fractures. Solo Sikoa showing flashes of defiance. Jey Uso questioning his orders. Paul Heyman glancing 1 second too long at another rising star. Roman didn't address these moments. He controlled them. Suppressed them. Gaslight his family into obedience. That was his power, emotional warfare. But emotion is a fickle currency. The moment Cody Rhodes came for the title at WrestleMania 39, the world saw something crack, not in the Bloodline's defense, but in Roman himself. He still won, yes, but the win wasn't clean. It took interference. Desperation. It wasn't the finish of a story, it was a temporary stall. After that, the dominoes began to fall. Jey and Jimmy Uso were loyal to a fault. They stood by Roman through everything, lying, cheating, sacrificing for the sake of family. But over time, Roman's treatment of them changed. It wasn't just leadership. It became humiliation. In backstage segments, live interviews, and PPVs, Reigns degraded them. He slapped Jey in front of the world. He made Jimmy stand down when his brother needed him most. The turning point came at Night of Champions, when Jimmy finally snapped and super-kicked Roman. The crowd went ballistic. The aura around Reigns began to fracture in real time. For the first time since his tribal chief transformation, Roman bled metaphorically, and later, literally. Then came Solo. Reigns saw him as the final safeguard. The cold enforcer who would never speak up, never question, just destroy. And for a while, that's exactly what Solo did. But power intoxicates. And Solo is not just muscle. He's family too. Bloodline 2.0, younger, stronger, more in tune with modern aggression. And when Solo began ignoring Heyman's signals and making his own calls in-ring, fans started whispering. Would he turn next? The answer wasn't if. It was when. When Solo finally spiked Roman, in front of a stunned audience. He didn't hesitate. He didn't monologue. He didn't deliver a speech. He just looked Roman in the eye, and finished the job. Roman disappeared after that. No matches. No promos. No presents. Weeks turned into months. And when rumors of his return began swirling ahead of Raw, no one quite knew what to expect. Would he double down as tribal chief? Would he come back bitter? Blaming the world? What the WWE Universe got was silence. And then the lights went out. What came back wasn't the tribal chief. It was the Shield's enforcer. Wrestling is a language. And Roman Reigns knows how to speak it fluently. The vest he wore when he returned wasn't just gear. It was a symbol. The tactical vest, last seen during his early WWE years with the Shield, spoke louder than any promo ever could. He was no longer above the fight. He was in it. Gone were the lays, the island thrones, the tailored suits, the smug aura. In their place stood a man reborn. Or perhaps unmasked. Because maybe, just maybe, the tribal chief was always a mask for something deeper, a man driven by fear of losing control. And when he finally did lose it, he realized control wasn't power. Brotherhood was. Roman didn't need to recruit allies like Punk and Rhodes. He could have gone solo. He could have played the martyr. He could have begged the Usos back or leaned on Heyman to manipulate his way into another empire. But he didn't. He walked into that arena not as a leader, but as an equal. He stood beside Cody Rhodes, the man he crushed at WrestleMania. He stood next to CM Punk, the one man in the business more defiant than he ever was. He didn't issue commands. He raised his fist. It wasn't about legacy anymore. It was about reclamation. Reddit threads exploded with one recurring idea: this is Roman's redemption. Not just a redemption of character, but of storytelling. Of legacy. Of respect. The fans who once booed him for being forced down their throats were now watching the most complex, emotionally layered character WWE had crafted in years. He wasn't the face. He wasn't the heel. He was something more nuanced, a broken king choosing to fight like a soldier. And when his hand went up in the Shield salute, the crowd didn't just cheer. They believed. Roman Reigns returning to his Shield roots was not nostalgia bait. It was strategic brilliance, both in story and creatively. Here's why: it resets his character without erasing his past. It adds stakes to the feud with Rollins, Reed, and Breakker. It sets up possible future fractures. Reigns isn't used to being one of three, he's used to being the one. It opens the door for long-term storytelling. What happens when Reigns wants to lead again? What if Punk and Rhodes won't follow? The Shield, even in its original form, was never stable for long. And this version? Even more combustible. Roman's arc is far from over. If anything, it's been reset. This isn't the end of his story, it's a brutal, riveting new chapter. Because the truth is, he hasn't stopped being a king. He's just fighting from the trenches now. Waiting. Plotting. And when the dust settles, when Heyman's empire crumbles, or if the Shield breaks down from within, Roman will be right there in the rubble. Ready to reclaim his throne. Only this time, he'll have bled for it. 3 men. 3 egos. 3 wars behind them. Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes. CM Punk. On paper, this alliance shouldn't exist. These aren't friends. These aren't even neutral parties. These are 3 men whose careers have intersected in fire, who've each carried the weight of the company in their own way, at different times, for different reasons. So what could possibly bring them together? One answer: mutual enemies and unfinished business. Cody's WWE return wasn't just a comeback. It was prophecy. The prodigal son returning from his self-built legacy in AEW to finish the story his father never could. It was perfection. A WrestleMania-worthy arc. And WWE leaned into it. Fans didn't just cheer Cody. They invested in him. He became the beating heart of WWE's post-Vince era. The legacy babyface. The dream that hard work and self-belief could overcome corporate ceilings. Then WrestleMania 39 happened. And Roman Reigns beat him. Not clean. Not fair. But definitively. Cody lost. The story. His story was crushed under the tribal chief's heel. What followed was a strange year for Cody. Feuds that lacked purpose. Promos that felt like distractions. A man trying to keep momentum without a mountain to climb. Until now. Standing beside Reigns, the very man who stole his legacy, Cody isn't just fighting for the WWE Universe. He's fighting for closure. To beat Seth Rollins. To destroy Heyman's machine. And maybe, to redeem the moment he failed in front of the world. CM Punk's return to WWE broke the internet. 7 years gone. Scorched earth behind him. A man who had sworn off sports entertainment had re-entered the building. Why? Maybe for revenge. Maybe for redemption. Maybe both. Punk has always operated as a lone wolf, the anti-hero who calls his shots, then takes the consequences. From pipe bombs to walkouts to brawls backstage, he's been chaos incarnate. Which makes his alliance with Reigns and Rhodes so shocking. This is a man who's never followed anyone. He walks alone. Yet there he stood, black gear, steely gaze, arm raised in shield salute. For fans, it was whiplash. But for Punk, this isn't about camaraderie. This is about shared enemies. Heyman, the man who once believed in him, then left him behind. Rollins, the corporate golden boy who mocked Punk's legacy. Reed and Breaker, new school powerhouses threatening the foundation Punk helped build. Punk didn't join the Shield. He joined the war. And he picked the side most likely to help him burn it all down. We covered Roman's transformation in Chapter 1. But let's zero in on why he chose Cody and Punk. He could have picked almost anyone. Babyfaces galore populate WWE's locker room. Younger stars. Hungrier talent. More obedient personalities. Instead, he picked the man he humiliated at WrestleMania. The man who once called WWE a toxic environment. Why? Because these are men who know pain. Who've been broken. Who've walked away and come back stronger. Just like Roman. In many ways, this trio is the embodiment of survival. Roman knows that to fight a war against Heyman's empire, he doesn't need yes men. He needs warriors. He needs people who won't flinch when the arena goes dark. Who won't hesitate when chairs fly. Who have already lost everything and have nothing left to fear. That's Cody. That's Punk. Wrestling fans love logic. They demand continuity. They tear apart bad storytelling with surgical precision. This story? It holds. Because this isn't an alliance based on love. It's based on necessity. Cody needs to redeem WrestleMania. Punk needs to dismantle the system. Roman needs to stop an empire he helped enable. And the only way to do that is together. This makes their team fascinating. It's not about trust. It's about strategy. It's not about honor. It's about mutually assured destruction. They don't need to be friends. They just need to hate the other side more than they hate each other. Let's break down that moment again, because it wasn't just well executed. It was cinematic. The arena goes dark. The Shield's music hits, not the full version, just the opening thump. Enough to ignite the memory. The crowd is frozen. Then the lights hit. 3 silhouettes. Three men. Three fists in the air. Rhodes. Punk. Reigns. All in black. All grim-faced. All ready for war. No words are spoken. No promo. Just the image. That's storytelling. That's mythology. And when Bronson Reed interrupted, when he walked down and chose Rollins over Reigns, the crowd was already emotionally primed. This wasn't a segment. It was a chapter in wrestling's most compelling novel. Let's address the obvious question: is this new Shield just a lazy reboot? No. This isn't Roman trying to relive the past. This isn't WWE cashing in on nostalgia. This is a spiritual evolution. The original Shield was about domination. Young stars carving their place through calculated violence. Unity born from ambition. This Shield? It's about desperation. It's about survival. It's about men with fractured histories choosing, temporarily, to fight a greater evil. In many ways, this version is more unstable. More layered. And ultimately, more human. Because Ambrose, Rollins, and Reigns were always tight until they weren't. But Reigns, Rhodes, and Punk? They were never tight at all. And that makes every step forward tense. Every glance filled with doubt. Which means the story has room to either explode or evolve. WWE needed this. After the Bloodline saga, fans wondered what could possibly follow that level of storytelling. How do you top tribal warfare, family betrayal, and 2 years of pure dominance? Answer: you tear it all down and start a war between philosophies. Because that's what this really is. Heyman's empire is control. Order. Strategic power. The new Shield is chaos. Rebellion. Redemption. This isn't just a faction fight. It's a war of ideas. And WWE, by letting this story breathe, may have just set the course for its next era. Reaction across the WWE community has been volcanic. Fan accounts are already labeling this the best WWE storyline since the Bloodline. Twitter/X debates rage: who turns first? Can Punk be trusted? What if Reigns wants control again? Fantasy booking threads are endless. Merch sales spiked the week after the reveal. And most importantly, fans care. Deeply. Because these aren't random alliances. These are choices with weight. When Cody raises his fist, he's not just honoring Roman. He's swallowing his pride. When Punk walks beside Reigns, he's choosing to suppress every rebellious instinct, for now. And when Reigns lets others stand beside him, not behind him, that's growth. That's the question no one can answer. Do they dominate as a trio? Does the pressure of past wounds cause a blow-up before SummerSlam? Is this a one-off team for survival? Or the beginning of a faction that changes the landscape again? Whatever the case, it's clear, the new Shield isn't a gimmick. It's a statement. 3 men. 1 mission. Take down the Empire, or die trying. In wrestling, betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from someone you trust, or worse, someone the fans believed was finally getting their due. That's why when Bronson Reed walked past Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk at Raw, shook hands with Seth Rollins, and powerbombed Punk through the announce table, the air left the arena. It wasn't just a heel turn. It was a gut punch to anyone who believed Reed was ready to be something more, a destroyer with heart, a monster with honor, a silent enforcer about to find his voice. Instead, he became the wild card who proved one thing: in war, no one is safe. To understand why this betrayal matters, you have to understand who Bronson Reed is, or at least, who he was becoming. For months, Reed has operated in the shadows of WWE's main stories. He wasn't the face of a brand. He wasn't cutting 10-minute promos or getting pyro-filled entrances. But he was making a name for himself. His in-ring work was sharp, devastating, methodical. He was becoming what some fans call a quiet killer. The kind of wrestler who doesn't talk much but leaves destruction behind him every night. Think Samoa Joe, circa 2005. Reed was the guy you didn't see coming until you were flat on your back. And behind the scenes, in kayfabe and out, he was gaining respect. From peers. From veterans. From fans sick of the same old names. He was billed as a potential fourth man for the Shield resurrection not just because of his physical presence, but because of his energy. He felt like an enforcer. Like a fit. And that's exactly what made the betrayal work. WWE didn't build Reed as a main eventer overnight. They built him as something more dangerous, a reliable force. The kind of guy Roman could trust. The kind of guy Cody could accept. The kind of guy who, when the lights went down and the Shield returned, would slide into position without question. That's the trick. Wrestling betrayals don't land because of big names, they land because of emotional setup. Reed was presented as the unspoken fourth. Everyone just assumed. Twitter was already fantasy booking it, give me Roman, Cody, Punk, and Reed at SummerSlam. Instant classic. Reed deserves this rub. It's time. And then? He turned. The art of betrayal in wrestling relies on timing. Silence. Tension. False hope. When Reed's music hit after the Shield's dramatic entrance, fans buzzed. The camera caught Reigns' glance to the ramp. A half nod, as if to say, he's here. Reed stomped down to the ring, fists clenched, jaw set. He stepped into the ring. The crowd leaned in. Would he raise his fist? Would the new Shield become complete? No. He didn't even look at them. He walked past. And then Seth Rollins appeared, arms open. Smiling. The crowd exploded. Not in cheers, in disbelief. Reed took his place beside Rollins. And in one brutal motion, he lifted Punk and slammed him through the announce table like a bag of bones. It wasn't flashy. It was clinical. Rhodes tried to stop it, but got speared mid-sprint by Breakker. Reigns hesitated, just long enough to watch it all collapse. This wasn't just physical domination. It was a mental execution. Let's break it down. There was no visible heat between Reed and any of the Shield members. No promos. No sneak attacks. No grudges. It was the absence of conflict that made the turn land so hard. Rollins didn't just add another member. He recruited someone fans emotionally invested in as a future hero. And in doing so, he cut the legs out from the new Shield before they could even stand. Though silent during the betrayal, Paul Heyman was there. His grin at ringside said it all. This wasn't Reed being seduced by power. This was a calculated play, a plant in the Shield's garden. And that opens the door to even deeper questions. Was Reed ever going to join them? Did Heyman have this planned all along? Was Roman manipulated again? The week following the betrayal, Reed broke his silence. His promo wasn't loud. It wasn't wild. It was cold. Direct. Terrifying. Everyone thought I was going to follow. That I'd be muscle for men trying to fix what they broke. But I don't follow. I break. I don't protect legacies. I end them. And just like that, Reed redefined himself. Not as a sidekick. As a force of nature. And now he had a reason, not just to hurt, but to humiliate the new Shield every chance he gets. Reactions to the betrayal were explosive. No, I trusted you, Bronson. Best heel turn in years. This is how you build a monster. People weren't just angry. They were impressed. Because WWE earned this moment. It wasn't a cheap turn. It was built on months of silence, respect, and slow-burn trust. When you betray that, it hits harder. While Reed didn't say much at first, Seth Rollins did what Seth Rollins does best, run his mouth with precision. Roman built an army of followers. I'm building a machine of killers. Bronson isn't here to protect you. He's here to bury you. Rollins didn't just recruit Reed. He weaponized him. He turned Reed into a walking message: you can't trust anyone anymore. Not even the ones you think are yours. And that kind of fear is exactly how Heyman's empire intends to win this war. Reed's betrayal wasn't just physical. It left a scar on the Shield's psyche. Can they trust new allies now? Will Punk start to doubt Reigns' judgment? Will Cody blame himself for not seeing it coming? This turn doesn't just shake the foundation of the team. It rattles the confidence of its most unstable member, Punk. And that could lead to the next crack in the Shield's armor. Now that Reed is with Rollins, the question becomes, how far will he rise? He's no longer a quiet background player. He's now at the center of the hottest storyline in wrestling. Could he dismantle the Shield, piece by piece? Take a title off one of its members? Eventually challenge Rollins himself? There's danger in letting a monster loose. But there's chaos when you give that monster direction. Heyman and Rollins have given Reed both. And we may never recover. He doesn't throw punches. He doesn't take bumps. He doesn't even wrestle. Yet Paul Heyman might be the most dangerous man in WWE. Because Heyman doesn't need to dominate physically. He dominates psychologically. He's been the architect behind some of the most powerful factions in wrestling history. And now, he's pulled off his most chilling transformation yet, turning a collection of gifted individuals into a single, violent, disciplined force of destruction. They call it a faction. It's not. It's an empire. To truly grasp what makes Heyman's latest creation so threatening, you have to trace the path that got him here. Paul Heyman has always thrived in chaos. In the 90s, he ran ECW not just as a promotion, but as a revolution. It wasn't about slick production or PG scripts. It was blood, sweat, and rebellion. He gave voices to the voiceless. He took misfits and molded them into legends. Later, in WWE, he attached himself to monsters. Brock Lesnar, Big Show, Curtis Axel. He became the master of the advocate persona, a man whose words could elevate giants into gods. But his magnum opus? Roman Reigns. The Tribal Chief era was Heyman's psychological masterpiece. He wasn't just Roman's mouthpiece, he was his strategist, his consigliere, his handler. Until the bloodline fell apart. Until Heyman vanished. And now? He's back, not in the spotlight, but behind the curtain, pulling strings in a darker, smarter, more dangerous way. Unlike with Reigns, Heyman isn't front and center this time. He rarely speaks. He's no longer the hype man. He's become something colder. Sharper. More deliberate. Now he operates like a general in a bunker, rarely seen, but always in command. He lets Rollins talk. He lets Breakker hit. He lets Reed destroy. But make no mistake, this is Heyman's machine. And what makes it so terrifying is its structure, built not on loyalty or bloodlines, but on pure, strategic compatibility. At the center of Heyman's new empire stands Seth freakin' Rollins, and he's not just playing champion. He's playing chess. Rollins has always walked a line between brilliance and instability. Burned through stables. Betrayed brothers. Reinvented himself more times than anyone since Chris Jericho. But this version of Rollins? He's colder. Less flashy. More methodical. And that's Heyman's influence. Under Heyman, Rollins has traded chaos for control. He's taken all of his cunning, speed, and charisma and focused it into building something permanent, a faction not for show, but for domination. He's not the architect of the Shield anymore. He's the strategist of war. If Rollins is the mind, Braun Breakker is the hammer. A freak athlete with a family legacy stretching back to the Steiner brothers, Breakker came into WWE like a wrecking ball. Explosive. Relentless. Unfiltered rage. Heyman didn't try to polish him. He didn't soften the edges. He weaponized them. Breaker's role in the Empire is clear: shock and awe. He's the spear point that hits first and hardest. He's not there to talk or play games. He's there to hurt people. And under Heyman's command, he stopped targeting random mid-carders and started hitting top-tier threats. He folded Cody Rhodes like paper at Raw. He put Reigns on the mat for the first time in months. This isn't about rising up the ranks. It's about clearing the board. Then there's Bronson Reed, the Empire's latest and most shocking addition. Reed, covered in betrayal in Chapter 3, completes the triangle of power that Heyman has built. If Breaker is the chaos and Rollins is the control, Reed is the execution. He doesn't move fast. He doesn't shout. He doesn't wear flashy gear or cut edgy promos. He just ends people. And now, aligned with Rollins, Reed has a purpose: to be the unshakable center of a machine designed to crush anything in its path. Together, they form a terrifying unit: Rollins, strategic leader; Breaker, unrelenting force; Reed, crushing finisher, all stitched together by Heyman's unseen hand. So why did Heyman shift from Roman to Rollins? Because Heyman understands timing better than anyone else in the industry. He saw the bloodline collapsing before Roman did. He saw Solo's ambitions. He saw the Usos fracture. And he saw Roman's pride becoming a liability. Heyman doesn't wait for kings to fall. He builds new ones. And in Rollins, he saw not just a champion, but a man ready to command an empire, not just a throne. Roman wanted a family. Rollins wants a dynasty. One is vulnerable to emotion. The other? Focused solely on power. Heyman made his choice. The brilliance of this storyline lies in the contrast. The new Shield is built on broken men finding common ground. Heyman's empire is built on compatibility and control. Shield 2.0 wants to reclaim something: respect, identity, legacy. The Empire doesn't want to reclaim anything. They want to erase what came before. This isn't just faces versus heels. It's humanity versus mechanism. Heyman has done this before. But never quite like this. In ECW, he built an army of outcasts. With Lesnar, he weaponized brute strength. With Reigns, he controlled blood. But now? He's beyond allegiances. He doesn't care about bloodlines. He doesn't care about honor. He cares about dominance. This is his empire. And like all great empires, it is designed to outlast any one leader. Even Rollins. Even Reed. Even himself. Because that's the scariest part of all: Heyman isn't building this for today. He's building it for tomorrow. WWE fans know Heyman's fingerprints when they see them. The slow burn promos. The perfectly timed reveals. The ominous presence without overexposure. Reddit threads now refer to Heyman as the final boss of booking. Twitter/X is flooded with gifs of his smirks, his behind-the-scenes nods, his manipulative backstage glances. People don't just watch his stories. They study them. Because Heyman doesn't give fans what they want. He gives them what they never knew they needed. And this empire? Is everything WWE didn't know it needed until it appeared. The terrifying question is, how far does this go? Does Heyman keep adding members? Does the Empire infiltrate championships, brands, even creative management on screen? Could this storyline grow into something bloodline-sized, or bigger? And what happens if Rollins steps out of line? Because make no mistake, Heyman may have built this empire around Rollins. But it doesn't belong to him. The second Rollins fails, the second he doubts Heyman's plan, he'll find out exactly how replaceable he is. And Heyman? He'll already have the next move ready. Wrestling has always been more than just athleticism. It's theater, storytelling, psychology, a combat sport staged within the framework of myth and morality. What's happening right now between the new Shield and Heyman's empire isn't just compelling television. It's a textbook case in how to use wrestling psychology to create something timeless. This chapter breaks it all down, from archetypes to subtext, and explains why this story might be the most emotionally and narratively rich WWE feud since the Bloodline saga. Let's start with the core theme, trauma. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk aren't teaming up because of common goals. They're teaming up because of shared scars. Each one has been burned. By betrayal, by failure, by corporate interference. Roman was betrayed by his own family and stripped of his kingdom. Cody was denied his crowning moment after returning from exile. Punk was cast out years ago and only now clawed his way back into the system he once rejected. These aren't heroes. They're survivors. Their alliance isn't clean. It's messy, jagged, emotionally loaded, and that's why it works. Because fans see the pain, and pain is the most relatable emotion in wrestling psychology. No emotional turn hits harder than betrayal. And this storyline is built on it. Roman was betrayed by Jay, Jimmy, and Solo. Cody was betrayed by the system that sold him redemption, then pulled it back. Punk was betrayed by everyone, from the locker room to the suits to the fans who turned on him during his AEW fallout. Now, they're fighting not just to win, but to protect each other from being betrayed again. And just when they think they've found a fourth man, Bronson Reed betrays them too. That's not just plot. That's trauma repeating itself. This creates a layered emotional loop. We came together because we were betrayed. And now, we've been betrayed again. Can we survive it this time? Wrestling psychology thrives on contrast. Putting three alphas, Reigns, Rhodes, Punk, into one faction isn't just explosive, it's narratively volatile. These are not men built to share power. These are leaders, each used to commanding the room. Watching them try to navigate each other's energy is half the thrill. Roman is used to absolute control. He's now one of three. Cody is the ultimate babyface, trying to keep peace between rivals. Punk is an anti-authority wildcard, constantly testing the alliance's limits. This creates natural tension. Every promo, every stare down, every tag or tag refusal in matches adds to the narrative. Fans watch not just for wins and losses, but for micro-behaviors that might hint at the next explosion. Heyman's empire works psychologically because it's the perfect contrast to the Shield, where the Shield is emotionally unstable and bonded through pain. Heyman's group is logical, cold, and efficient. Rollins, Breaker, Reed. They aren't there because they like each other. They're there because they function together. Like gears in a machine. There are no speeches about honor. No signs of doubt. No past trauma driving them, only a shared understanding that they can destroy more efficiently together than alone. The new Shield is human. Heyman's empire is inhuman. This isn't just a new story. It's a subversion of an old one. The original Shield, Reigns, Rollins, Ambrose, was built on brotherhood, unity, and purpose. This version? Built on trauma, distrust, and desperation. And here's the genius, Rollins is now the enemy. The very man who helped build the original Shield is now the one tearing this new version down, aided by a Heyman who once stood beside Roman. It's Shakespearean in its symmetry. The mentor becomes the saboteur. The leader becomes the hunted. The team built on unity is replaced by one built on survival. One of the most powerful psychological tactics WWE is using in this arc is iconography. The black tactical vests. The fists raised in unison. The reuse of the Shield theme music. These aren't just aesthetic choices. They're emotional triggers. Every callback to the Shield's legacy pulls fans into a state of nostalgia, then subverts it by placing different people in those roles. It's like watching a familiar movie scene reacted with a new cast. You know the beats, but you don't know the outcome. That creates suspense, emotional tension, and intellectual engagement. You're not just watching what happens. You're constantly questioning, will they betray each other again? Is this real or temporary? How far can this go before it collapses? Trust is rare in wrestling storylines, and when it's tested right, it becomes addictive to watch. This feud puts trust under a microscope. Can Reigns trust Punk not to swerve him? Can Punk trust Cody to protect him if things go south? Can they all trust each other to not become the next Bronson Reed? Every move, every hesitation, every unexpected tag or near miscommunication is part of the story. Wrestling psychology thrives when the audience becomes paranoid on behalf of the characters. That's happening here. And it's why fans don't just watch this story, they analyze it. Modern wrestling fans are smarter. They know the tropes. They've seen 20 years of betrayals, face turns, heel turns, and fake-outs. So for a story to truly hit, it has to play on multiple levels. This one does. Surface level, it's a faction war with high-profile stars. Emotional level, it's a redemption arc for broken men. Historical level, it's a commentary on legacy, betrayal, and cyclical trauma. Meta level, it's a conversation between eras, old Shield versus New Order. This complexity is what makes the psychology work. It rewards attention. It rewards memory. It rewards investment. This story is also succeeding because it feels real. It reflects how people work in real life. Trauma bonds us, even if we don't like each other. We're drawn to what's familiar, even if it's dangerous. Betrayal leaves scars that never fully heal. Trust is hard to build, and easy to lose. That's not just wrestling. That's life. And when wrestling mirrors life without becoming melodrama, it enters rare territory, art. That's what this story is doing. Let's be honest, this alliance can't last forever. And WWE knows that. The cracks are already showing. Reigns staring too long. Punk's offhand remarks. Cody playing peacemaker like he knows something's coming. And when the implosion comes, it will feel earned, because we've watched every step of the way. We've seen them grow close. We've seen them hesitate. We've seen them bleed for each other. And when it ends, it won't just be sad. It'll be devastating. Because that's how good wrestling psychology works, it builds you up to break your heart. And you'll thank it when it does. The moment Roman Reigns stood beside Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, fists raised in Shield formation, the internet didn't just react. It erupted. Within seconds, wrestling forums, fan pages, Discord servers, and social media timelines were lit with disbelief, adrenaline, and emotional chaos. Hashtags flooded the global trending list before the segment even ended. Fan art appeared overnight. YouTube reaction videos poured in by the hour. In a matter of minutes, Raw wasn't just trending. It was canonized. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The Shield gear. The lights going out. The arena plunge into darkness. And then, Reigns, Rhodes, and Punk standing in full formation, no music, no promo, just presence. People watching at home screamed. Fans in the arena lost their minds. Even commentators were silent, letting the moment speak for itself. Then Bronson Reed showed up. And in an instant, the cheers turned to gasps. When he walked straight past the trio and hugged Seth Rollins, Twitter basically exploded. Oh my god, Bronson just turned. I trusted you, bro. This is betrayal cinema. Paul Heyman, you evil genius. Raw just became must-see TV again. Within minutes, hashtag New Shield, hashtag Bronson Reed, hashtag Rollins Empire, hashtag Heyman's Empire, and hashtag CM freaking Punk were all trending. It wasn't just a hot angle. It was a cultural spike. Subreddits like r/squared circle turned into fan war zones, thread titles. That might be the greatest Raw segment of the last 10 years. Was this bigger than the Bloodline's collapse? Roman just turned full circle. And I'm not okay. Bronson Reed. That's the post. Just Bronson Reed. Top comments ranged from unhinged hype to genuine analysis. This is how you tell a story without saying a word. I got literal chills when the lights came back on. Paul Heyman has quietly become the final boss of wrestling booking. I never saw that Bronson turn coming. Redditors didn't just debate the booking. They were emotionally invested. And that's the point. Wrestling YouTubers reacted instantly. Some went live the moment Raw ended. Others posted emergency breakdowns of the full segment within an hour. Popular thumbnails read, Roman, Cody, Punk. What just happened? WWE just shook the world again. The Shield returns. And gets betrayed? Creators from all corners of the wrestling sphere, kayfabe analysts, behind-the-scenes historians, fantasy bookers, all agreed on one thing: this was wrestling storytelling at its absolute peak. Reaction clips went viral. Fans screaming at their screens. Some nearly crying. One video of a dad explaining to his kids who the Shield was, only to fall silent when Punk appeared, hit 1 million views in 2 days. This wasn't just nostalgia. This was emotional warfare, and fans loved every second of it. Within 24 hours, TikTok was flooded with fan edits, slow-motion clips of the Shield trio set to emotional music. Reigns, Punk, and Rhodes footage cut together as a brotherhood born in fire. Bronson Reed's betrayal edited like a tragic love story gone wrong. Heyman dubbed over with Emperor Palpatine quotes. Breaker spearing Rhodes with audio from a Marvel fight scene. Memes were everywhere. The Shield, we ride together, we die together. Bronson Reed, cool. I'll kill you then. A shot of Rollins holding out his arms to Reed captioned, this is what manipulation looks like. Reigns' stunned face meme captioned, when you realize you're not the final boss anymore. In short, the fans took the moment and ran with it. And WWE was smart enough to stay out of their way. DeviantArt, Instagram, and Twitter saw an explosion of fan-created art, Punk, Rhodes, and Reigns in tactical gear, back-to-back. Heyman seated on a throne with Rollins, Reed, and Breaker kneeling like Dark Knights. Split-screen posters styled like blockbuster films, SummerSlam, The Empire vs. the Brotherhood. Fantasy bookers posted full cards, promos, betrayal arcs, and crossover possibilities. Some of the most popular theories. Dean Ambrose returns to destroy the new Shield. Punk betrays Reigns to side with Heyman, again. The Rock returns to confront Roman and Seth. A multi-man, faction versus faction war at Survivor Series. The community wasn't just reacting. They were creating. Current and former WWE superstars weighed in on social. Sami Zayn, y'all feel that chill too? Or just me? Kevin Owens, that was art. Ugly, brutal, beautiful art. Natalya, whatever just happened out there. I felt it backstage. The Rock, via IG story, I taught Roman how to raise that eyebrow. Now he's raising hell. Even AEW stars threw subtle shade and nods, fueling interpromotional gossip. The lines between kayfabe and reality blurred just enough to make everything feel alive. Let's be clear, this wasn't just hype. This was years of emotional storytelling, from the Shield's breakup, to Reigns' tribal chief reign, to Punk's return, to Cody's redemption arc, all colliding in one moment. Fans weren't reacting to just what happened. They were reacting to what it meant. Roman's arc came full circle. Punk and Heyman are finally at war again. Cody and Seth are back in conflict. The Shield is both resurrected and sabotaged in the same breath. And no one knows what comes next. That kind of storytelling doesn't come along often. And when it does, the fans don't just react. They erupt.